Okay, layers part 4. When we're in a drawing, if we'd like to select everything, we have learned that we can do crossing and picking and lassos. We can also type Control A, and that will select everything as well. Any drawing that you're in, if you're in one of my classes, you're going to make sure that when you type Control A and look in the Properties window, it will say Color by Layer. That's always the case. If it doesn't say Color by Layer, you have inadvertently changed the color of an object, and we don't like to do that. That would be bad. So I'm going to hit Escape to let go of these lines. Looking over in the Layer Properties Manager, this area of the screen is now dedicated not to the drawing area but to the layers discussion. I have to click inside the Layer Properties Manager in order to activate that window. But now that I'm in there, I can click Control A to select all the layers at one time. Anything I do to one of these layers now will happen to all of them. I can turn them all off. I do get a warning. I'm not allowed to turn off the current layer without answering that question. I can also freeze all the layers. You will get this warning as well. This layer cannot be frozen because it is current. So I close that dialog, and you'll notice that all the layers freeze except the current layer. I can turn them all back on. I can unfreeze them all. In order to release that selection set, Escape will not work. I have to click somewhere else on this list. So I can either click a layer individually, or I could click somewhere else in the gray area. If I'd like to change the name of a layer, and what I'm going to do is change the name of the layer A wall. So I'm going to click the layer once. I'm going to click the name a second time. It will take just half a second. But then you can see that layer name is highlighted. I'm going to change it to, let's make it A-GLAZ, which would be the typical layer that you would put glazing systems on or windows. That color would typically be yellow, so I'm going to go ahead, make it yellow, and say OK. We can see that, yes, the two circles have updated and that we were able to rename the layer. Now, one last bit of introduction for the Layer Properties Manager. There are ways to access these controls with keystrokes. It's a rather complicated scenario, but I think it's an important thing to grapple with early on. So here we go. In order to access the Layer Properties Manager with keystrokes, I'm going to start by typing -LA, enter. We can see down in the command line that it says Layer, enter an option. We have many, many options. All of the things that are listed there in gray rectangles are options. I can access all of those options by simply typing the letters that are capitalized. They're also in blue. They are buttons, and you can click them with the mouse, but I would like you to learn to use the keystrokes that are important here. What I'm going to do is I want to turn off all the layers. So I'm going to type off, and then the command prompt asks me, enter name list of layers to turn off, and I'm going to do all of them. AutoCAD is based on old DOS programming, and the wildcard symbol in DOS is the asterisk, so that's Shift 8, and I hit enter. And it asks me the same question. Notice when I was in the Layer Properties Manager, I got a dialog box that popped up. I had to click on something, which meant I had to move my mouse into that position and find it. In this case, it's asking me in the command line, layer, really want layer X line, the current layer off, and I'm going to type Y, meaning yes, enter. Then it brings me back into this layer dialog discussion. I can click enter one more time, and it will execute that command. You'll notice over in the Layer Properties Manager, all of the light bulbs are off. Okay, that took a few minutes, but I can do this faster, and once I know the keystrokes, then it moves much quicker. So to turn them all back on, I can do -LA on, star, enter, enter, and they're all back on. This is actually faster than trying to work with a large set of layers over in the Layer Properties Manager. It also gives us access to some interesting ways to filter the Layer Properties Manager. So watch what I'm going to do. We're going to turn off all the layers first with keystrokes, and then I'm going to turn on only the layers that start with A dash. Here's what it looks like. -LA, enter, OFF, enter, star, enter, Y, enter, enter. Now to turn on only the layers that have the A dash as a prefix, I can do this. -LA, enter, on, enter, A dash, star, enter, enter. And that allows me to turn on just one set of layers. For a drawing this simple, it may be easier to work in the dialog box. For a drawing with, say, 20, 30, 50, 200 layers, it's much easier to do it with keystrokes.